If you could gaze into heaven right now, what would you see? A dazzling throne room? Angels flying in eternal light? And at the center of it all, God. But what does God actually look like? Is he a man with a white beard? A blinding light? Or something beyond anything the human mind can imagine? Today, we're diving deep into the most profound mystery of all. What does God really look like in heaven? Let's begin with a striking truth from the Bible. No one has ever seen God. John chapter 1 verse 18. Not Moses, not Isaiah, not even the apostles. But, didn't Moses see the burning bush? Didn't Isaiah see the Lord on his throne? Didn't Jesus say, "Whoever has seen me has seen the Father"? Yes, and no. These are called theophanies, manifestations of God in forms that humans can perceive. But they are not the fullness of God's essence. God is infinite. God is spirit. God is not limited to a body, form, or shape. And that changes everything. Even though God is invisible to human eyes, the Bible gives us powerful images, metaphors that reflect God's glory. Let's explore some of them. Moses and the burning bush, Exodus chapter 3. A flame that doesn't consume. A voice that speaks from fire. God appears to Moses not as a person, but as a holy fire. Moses hides his face. He's afraid to even look. Do not come closer. God says, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." This is not a human image. This is transcendent. The cloud and fire. Exodus chapter 13 verse 21. When God led Israel out of Egypt, by day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud, by night in a pillar of fire. God's presence was moving, guiding, covering, protecting, not a human form, but elements of nature charged with divine power. Thunder and smoke, Mount Sinai. Exodus chapter 19. When God descended on Mount Sinai, thunder roared, lightning flashed, the mountain trembled, and the people, terrified, "You speak to us, Moses," they cried, "but do not let God speak to us, or we will die." No face, no body, only raw, unfiltered majesty. Eye visions of the prophets. Let's move to the prophets who saw heavenly visions. Isaiah chapter 6. I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. He saw seraphim, angels with 6 wings. Smoke filled the room. The doorposts shook, and Isaiah cried out, "Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips." The vision overwhelmed him. It was not just about what he saw, but about what he felt, the utter holiness of God. Ezekiel chapter 1. One of the strangest visions in all of Scripture. 4 living creatures, wheels within wheels, lightning, fire, eyes everywhere. Then he sees a figure, like a man, glowing with metal and fire, surrounded by brilliant light, like a rainbow in the clouds. And then these words, "This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord." Not God himself, not even God's glory, but the appearance of the likeness of the glory. Layers of mystery. Daniel chapter 7 verse 9. As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow, the hair of his head was white like wool. This Ancient of Days image influenced many Christian paintings. A wise old king, a holy elder. But again, this is a vision, not a photograph. It reveals more about God's majesty than his anatomy. Part 3 Misconceptions. Is God an old man? Scene 21 to 25. Narrator. Many people picture God as a bearded old man in the sky. We can thank Michelangelo for that. His painting in the Sistine Chapel is iconic. But is that accurate? Not really. God is spirit. John chapter 4 verse 24. Spirit doesn't have flesh, bones, hair, or eyes. God has no age, no race, no gender in the human sense. So why do we use human images? Because we have no other way to imagine him. We are visual creatures. We use what we know, kings, fathers, warriors, to speak of what we don't fully understand. But don't confuse representation with reality. God is not a man. God is not a body. God is beyond form. But what about Jesus? He had a body. He walked the earth. People saw him, touched him, ate with him. In fact, he said, Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. John chapter 14 verse 9. I and the Father are one. John chapter 10 verse 30. The Son is the image of the invisible God. Colossians chapter 1 verse 15. This is the Christian mystery. The Word became flesh. God, who is invisible, entered human history in a visible form. So when we look at Jesus, we see the heart of the Father. Not his facial features, but his love, mercy, justice, and truth. Jesus shows us what God is like, not just what he looks like. Now comes the big question. Will we see God in heaven? Yes, but not with physical eyes. And not like seeing a face across the room. We will see God as he is, in the fullness of his glory. This is called the Beatific Vision, the direct, immediate, intuitive knowledge of God. We shall see him as he is. 1 John chapter 3 verse 2. Now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 12. It will be overwhelming, joy unspeakable, peace unshakable, love without end. Many saints who had mystical visions described God as pure light, infinite beauty, a fire of love, a presence that fills everything. Saint Teresa of Avila said it was like seeing everything, all at once, yet never being satisfied because there was always more. Saint Augustine said the soul would rest because it had found its origin and goal. You won't see a face the way you see your neighbor's face. You'll see God with the eyes of your soul, and it will feel more real than anything you've ever known. So why does it matter what God looks like? Because our image of God shapes how we relate to him. If you think God is an angry judge, you might hide from him. If you think he's a distant clockmaker, you might ignore him. If you see him as a father who runs to embrace you, everything changes. That's why Jesus came, to correct our image, to show us the Father, to open heaven for us. So, what does God really look like in heaven? We don't fully know, not yet, but we do know this. He is glorious beyond imagination. He is spirit, not body. He is love, light, and life itself. And one day, if we desire him, we will see him. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Matthew chapter 5 verse 8. Until then, we live by faith. We love what we cannot yet see. And we prepare for the day when all will be revealed. Are you ready for that day?